Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night Anamkara meditation program. With all my heart and with all my love, I welcome you to our program this evening. Today, we're going to dive into one of the ancient texts that has to do with the non-dual perspective of kind of radical Advaita Vedanta. Advaita means non-dual, and Vedanta is that perspective from the Upanishads that is affirming and speaking about the living presence of the divine everywhere. And so this is a text it's called the Avadhuta Gita, all right, the Avadhuta Gita. This is a translation by Swami Ashokananda, and it was put out by the Ramakrishna Mutt, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, a great non-dual Vedantist, and his tradition and his ashrama put this out. And the Avadhuta Gita, it's really an invocation in a sense. It's the word Avadhuta, the word Avadhut refers to a kind of saint, sage who has really gone beyond everything. And I thought I would start with just reading a little bit of the foreword that Swami Shokananda wrote. Uh, the Avadhuta Gita is a text of Vedanta representing extreme Advaita or non-dualism. It is ascribed to Dattatreya, Datta, son of Atri, who was looked upon as an incarnation of God. Unfortunately, we possess no historical data concerning when or where he was born, how long he lived, or how he arrived at the knowledge disclosed in the text. Some of the Puranas mention him, and of these, the Markandeya contains the longest reference, but even this is legendary and by no means very informative. The account in the Markandeya Purana suggests the following facts of Dattatreya's life. He was born of highly spiritual parents, Atri and Anusuya. Very early in life, he became renowned as a great warrior, and soon, renouncing the world and devoting himself to the practice of yoga, he attained to the highest state of liberation, thus becoming an avadhuta. An avadhuta means a liberated soul, one who has passed away from or shaken off all worldly attachments and cares and has attained a spiritual state equivalent to the existence of God. Though avadhuta naturally implies renunciation, it includes an additional and yet higher state, which is neither attachment nor detachment, but beyond both. An avadhuta feels no need for observing any rules, either secular or religious. He seeks nothing, avoids nothing. He has neither knowledge nor ignorance. Having realized that he is the infinite self, he lives in that vivid realization. To the Hindu mind, Dattatreya is a symbol of this realization. Whoever the unknown composer of the Avadhuta Gita may have been, he must himself have been a man of the highest spiritual perception. The Avadhuta Gita is a small book of only 8 chapters and is written in spirited Sanskrit verse, which breathes the atmosphere of the highest experience of Brahman. It goes into no philosophical argument to prove the oneness of reality, but is content to make the most startling statements, leaving the seeker of truth to imbibe them and be lifted from illusion into the blazing light of knowledge, jnana, right? So it's like meant for a jnana yoga, somebody who's really looking for that highest direct understanding. It's not a practical text. It's not talking about the integration of this. An avadut in India, these wandering avadhuts, and really Bhakti Baba, Bhagavan Nityananda, who was the guru of my teacher, was considered an avadhut. And he wore only a loincloth and kind of wandered around, settled in Ganeshpuri. But he didn't have any concerns about caste, diets, this and that. He was beyond all those things. And so, unless you want to be a naked sadhu living in the countryside, This is not a text for that kind of practical way of how do you live this into the world. And Avadhuta says, what world? What living? What rules? What body? It's like just the karmic winds that sustain the body are all that move it through the rest of that great being's life. Mm? So they've left it all behind. So when we read a text like the Avadhuta Gita, it's meant to be an invocation of our highest self, and sort of looking through the eyes of that highest self, that unitive vision, and what comes of that. And it has a similar flavor to something we've spoken about in the past, the Nirvana Shatakam, the 6 stanzas on Nirvana, on salvation, on samadhi, that was written by the great sage Shankaracharya. But Shankaracharya wasn't an avadhuta. He was an enlightened being, but he held to the rules and comported himself as a swami, as a sannyasin, as a renunciate. So he still obeyed some of the injunctions and rules, though his state was beyond that, and he saw the limitations of that. That's how he walked it into the world to make it accessible to others. Avadhuts don't seem to have any concern about that. Learn from them, don't learn from them. Experience their extraordinary presence or not, they have no concern over anything. They live immersed in this highest state. Their being is the teaching, the light that emanates from their eyes. That's the teaching. The presence. Being in the presence. Even going to Betty Baba's Mahasamadhi shrine in Ganeshpuri, that living presence. It didn't need a form. This is the highest Shakti, the highest consciousness emanating through such beings, even sustained after their physical form has dissolved. So that's what this is pointing to. This isn't, oh, what do you do when you're trying to, live in the world, go to the store, deal with your spouse, your job, your relationship. That's not this kind of text. And I make that very clear because these days, Advaita Vedanta, non-dualistic Vedanta, is often adopted by people. They read a few books, they read Nisargadatta, they read, Shankaracharya. They try and live it, but it can't be lived the way this text is speaking about it. That's the state of yourself. We have to have sort of a step-down transformer of where do we approach this? How do we engage in that? What do we do with that? That's partly what I was getting at in the video that went out today on upayas. Upaya meaning means. When we're in a very dualistic state, we do practices that meet us there. When we're sort of an in-between state, beta abeta or shaktupaya, then the mind is closer to holding that truth, but it's not quite there. Then there's Shambhavupaya, where sort of the momentum of all one's practices and the sublime intent of your own self, of grace itself, of Shakti itself, is drawing you, has taken you right into the foyer of the infinite. And there you sit, Shambhavupaya, there you are, to do something as gross as even repeat a mantra, as sublime as it is, would be too gross for an action. Mantra, that form is, and that state, that level of upaya is the throb of the awareness. I am. So the upayas and the Kashmir Shivite texts dealing with that, like the Shiva Sutras and the Pratibhigya Hridayam, they usher us along through these transitional phases. The Avadhuta Gita is just like, bam, here it is. And it can be that kind of inspiring invocation, inviting us to go and go, oh, that's the truth of who I am. That's where part of the fullness actually of myself, my true self, exists, resides in that state here and now. So as we know that, it then informs naturally, spontaneously our everyday life. So, the Avadhuta Gita. We'll just go through part of this. Chapter 1. Through the grace of God alone, the desire for non-duality arises in wise men to save them from great fear. From the grace of God, the grace of your own self. That's where that desire to be done with the world, to know the infinite, to know the one that has become the many. It arises from that. It's not, even that isn't mind-born. The mind can revisit it, hold that that's what it wants. That's important. But the initial spanda, the impulse of I want to be free, that Shakti of grace blazing. How shall I salute the formless being, indivisible, auspicious, and immutable, who fills all this with his self and also fills the self with his self? The universe, composed of the 5 elements, is like water in a mirage. Oh, to whom shall I make obeisance? I, who am one and taintless. I, who am one and taintless. Taintless means unsullied by the ignorance, unsullied by a dualistic view, unsullied by any sense of otherness. Who then would one pay obeisance to? You are that, right? Thou art that. This is the direct knowing of Tat Twam Asi. Thou art that. It's the direct knowing of Aham Brahmasmi. I am the absolute. He goes on to say, all is verily the absolute self. Distinction and non-distinction do not exist. How can I say it exists? It does not exist. I am who am filled with wonder. The essence and the whole of Vedanta is this knowledge, this supreme knowledge, that I am by nature the formless, all-pervasive self. There is no doubt that I am God, who is the self of all, pure, indivisible like the sky, naturally stainless. I indeed am immutable and infinite, and of the form of pure intelligence. I do not know how or in relation to whom joy and sorrow exists. You're in such a radical state that even this notion, somebody said joy, sorrow, anything, it's like, what? What? You're the mass of consciousness and bliss. This is what Shankaracharya was talking about similarly in the Nirvana Shatakam, right? The 6 stanzas on this state. And he ends each stanza with Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. I am the nature of consciousness and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. You know that. That knowledge has pushed aside everything else. Everything else. All that is that. I do not know how or in relation to whom joy and sorrow exist. Such a radically free state. I have no mental activity, good or bad. I have no bodily function, good or bad. I have no verbal action, good or bad. I am the nectar of knowledge, beyond the senses, pure. The mind indeed is of the form of space. The mind is indeed is omnifaced. The mind is the past. The mind is all. But in reality, there is no mind. So even though we can say, oh, all these things are of mind, all our perceptions, the only thing we know is the instrument of mind. We don't know of any objective reality. There's no such thing. And it's all filtered through the mind. We know this even from psychophysiological, neurological studies on perception. Everything has to go through the neurons and what that brain does to even the perception of what we want to believe to be an objective external reality. But he's saying, no, all mind. And you know what? Mind itself doesn't exist. Gone, all gone, gone. right? So now we're in the echo of the Heart Sutra and Buddha. Lord Buddha said, Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha, gone, 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 beyond. Beyond it all concepts, all ideas, all notions, everything, go beyond. That's where the truth of your being lies. I, the one only. I, the one only, am all this, beyond space and continuous. How can I see the self as visible or hidden? Thus you are one. Why then do you not understand that you are the unchangeable one, equally perceived in all? Almighty One, how can you who are ever shining, unrestricted, think of day and night? All the pairs of opposites, day and night, darkness and light, all gone, gone. Know the self always to be everywhere, one and unintercepted. I am the meditator and the highest object of meditation. Why do you divide the indivisible? The ordinary mind holds this notion that there's me, that as a meditator, there's what I'm meditating on, there's even a process of meditation. No, on this level, that's all been left behind. Those are all categories of mind and its conceptualizations of what reality is. He said, no, dial into reality. We're going to keep sweeping away everything that the mind clings to most dearly. This is why it's so radical. This is why it can feel so disintegrative, because this is meant to propel us into a state. And then when the truth of that is then sort of dripping like nectar into the subtle body and the physical body, then they carry it spontaneously into the world. You are not born, nor do you die. At no time do you have a body. The scriptures declare in many different ways the well-known dictum, all is Brahman, all is the absolute. You are he who is exterior and interior. You are the auspicious one, existing everywhere at all times. Why are you running hither and thither, deluded like an unclean spirit? Union and separation exist neither to you nor to me. There is no you, no me, nor is there this universe. All is verily the self alone. You do not belong to that which is composed of the 5 objects of sense, such as sound, nor does that belong to you. You indeed are the supreme reality. Why then do you suffer? For you there is no birth or death. For you there is no mind. For you there is no bondage or liberation, no good or evil. Why do you shed tears, my child? Neither you nor I have name or form. O mind, why do you wander about, deluded like an unclean spirit? Behold the self indivisible. Be happy through renunciation of attachment. You are verily truth, devoid of change, motionless, one of the nature of freedom. You have neither attachment nor aversion. Why do you suffer, seeking the objects of desires? All the scriptures say that the truth is without attributes, pure, immutable, bodiless, and existing equally everywhere. Know me to be that. Know me to be that. He said he wants you to know that you are that. It's like you looking in the mirror and saying, I know, I am that. This is a mirror. He's mirroring the truth of who you are, what you have always been, what you always will be. We only forget this when we identify with the mind. When he's saying, how have you become these things? He knows, because underlying it is that realization, no, you only become limited by identification with a limited structure, a limited thought, a limited feeling, a limited identity, all the stuff, the content of mind. Know me to be that. There is not the least doubt about it. No doubt. No doubt. He's inviting you to have no doubt about the truth of who you are. Know that which has form to be false, that which is formless to be eternal. By false, he means ephemeral. And that's why he puts it against what is formless to be eternal. Through the instruction of this truth, there is no longer rebirth into this world. Sages say that reality is one only and the same, and through renunciation of attachment to the mind, which is one in many, ceases to exist. So again, it's attachment to mind that gives birth to all of this and the illusion of it being a permanent reality. It's all ephemeral, all changing, all in motion all the time. It is of the nature of the not self. How can there be samadhi, superconscious realization, if it is of the nature of self? How can there be samadhi? If it is both is and is not, how can there be samadhi? If all is one and of the nature of freedom, how can there be samadhi? Even samadhi, non-samadhi, these are thought constructs. The reality simply is. The mind is something that came up with a term saying, oh, if you're in that state of isness, what's isness? Being, pure being, infinite being. If you're in that, I call that samadhi. That's the mind that calls that samadhi. Your infinite being doesn't say, oh, look at me, I'm in samadhi. No. There's no separation there. There's nothing for it to describe. The subject-object split is gone. That's why it's so radical, non-dual. It's not a teaching that you can just go, oh, I think I'll adopt that. This is a state. He's unfolding what the state looks like as best he can through these words. You are pure, homogeneous reality, disembodied, unborn, immutable. Why do you think of yourself as, I know it here, or as, I do not know? By such sentences as, thou art that, your own self is affirmed. Of that which is untrue and the compound of the 5 elements, the Shruti says, not this, not this, not this. Advaita Vedanta. Who am I? Whatever it comes up with, you go, neti, not this, not this. If it can be named, if it can be spoken of, it's not this. We see the same thing in the ancient Taoist tradition. The Tao that can be spoken of is not the Tao. That's the true essential nature of what is beyond mind, beyond words, beyond description. But it's consciousness. So it's self-luminous. It's self-illuminating. It's self-knowing. That's where the knowing arises from, not from mind, not from concepts, not from grand philosophies, not from great religious teachings. This is why the Avadhuta says, I don't need anything. I don't have to walk in the robes of a monk or a religious figure or anything. I'll walk around naked. I don't care. The great Ziparwana Baba was an Avadhut, and he lived on a garbage pile naked, yet he smelled of roses. He was so pure. His state was so exquisite. He lived that state into the world. And the few that could perceive it came to him for his grace, for his darshan. It has nothing to do with conventional clothes. It has nothing to do with robes and hats and layers of things that people put on to impress others. It has nothing to do with that. The state that's being spoken of is the state that's beyond everything. Then you can wear anything. You wear the clothes of a householder, knowing the fullness of your being and radiating that wherever you are. Doesn't need words. It is. Essential nature of being. As the self is filled by the self, so is all filled continuously by you. There is no meditator or meditation. Why does your mind meditate shamelessly? Perhaps the mind is trying to engage in a practice of going beyond itself and jump over your own shadow. That's why more and more we see the process of meditation is a process of erasing the doing of the mind to come to that place in Shambhavapaya. It's just the grace. It's just the Shakti. Removes the final veil. There you are. You've always been. You rest in that truth. When the body falls away, we'll still be in that truth. This is what we're invited to know. This is the profound depths of these traditions, these non-dual traditions. Yes, Dattatreya is pointing out that, even doing meditation betrays a level of ignorance. But when we're in ignorance, then we want to do things that are at least heading towards getting us free of ignorance. That's why the upayas start out with, wherever you are, that's where you start. If we're caught in ignorance, if we're caught in these separate things, then by all means, repeat mantra, do practices, do seva, do karma yoga, live love, compassion, patience into the world. Do the things that then help to purify the mind and make it a fit instrument to be held in the hands of God and write the truth of being into the world, into your life. That's what we're doing. So even when Dattatreya is pointing at this highest state, we shouldn't, that's where people get confused. We shouldn't say, then I don't do those practices. He's saying, when you get to that state, when you see this, you'll see, it was forever present and forever beyond practice. Practice is for the transformation of mind and body. Those are good, those are necessary. The state of consciousness we're talking about, the state of the self, the state of your pristine, pure being, nature, Buddha mind, is not created by practices. The practices solely get the mind and raw identification out of the way so we can experience the fullness of what is. That's what he's talking. The self is all, and it's all that is. I do not know the Supreme, Dattatreya says. How shall I speak of him? I do not know the Supreme. How shall I worship him? If I am the Supreme One, who is the highest truth, who is homogeneous being, and like unto space, how then shall I speak of him and worship him? There is no other. The principle of ego is not the truth, which is homogeneous, which is free from the cause of superimposition and distinctions of perceived and perceiver. How can the ego, that which is aware, be that which is aware of itself, right? Itself as the infinite. That the ego can't hold the infinite. It's a thimble. How can a thimble hold the ocean? There is no substance whatever which is by nature unlimited. There is no substance whatever which is of the nature of reality. The very self is the supreme truth. There is neither injury nor non-injury in it. You are the homogeneous reality. You are pure, bodiless, birthless, imperishable. Why then do you have any delusion about the self? Again, why am I myself deluded? When the pot is broken, the space within it is absorbed in the infinite space and becomes undifferentiated. When the mind becomes pure, I do not perceive any difference between the mind and supreme being. So when the pot is broken, the pot, the container, the little I, the little me that seems to hold this mere ray of consciousness, when that pot is shown to be just nothing, inside, outside, the space is all one. All there is that spaciousness of pure being. All that is. So in the Pratyabhijna Hridayam, it was talking about how the Shakti projects the world of difference on the screen of our own infinite being. The truth is the infinite being. The appearance happens within that. No separation. Even the appearance, even the illusion happens within the body of the infinite. It's all there is. All there is that. That's what we're coming home to. That's what we're invited to know. That's what the practices are drawing us to know. And then have it so drench mind and body that they carry the fragrance. Like Ziprawana Baba carried that fragrance, that exquisite scent, even though he literally lived on garbage piles, to make that statement that purity and impurity aren't about the externals, they're about our state. So for sadhus, for us, for seekers, for yogis, for practitioners, it's all about the state. Because the ordinary state of mind is a state of being caught in that illusion of, I'm a man, I'm this body, I exist in this time and space. That's the reality of this limited instrument. It's not the reality of the fullness of your being. You only come to know the limited reality by having lent the consciousness of your infinite self to this little form. And then you get to know what it is to be so tiny and contracted and fear-driven and pain-driven and everything else. And then when we're tired of that, then arises that gift of God, the gift of grace that says, I want to know what it is to be free. I want to live that again. I want to know the fullness of being, the being that is already fully present, fully here, fully now, fully unfolded, needs no development. That is yourself. That is what is a throb and sound form we call mantra. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. That is a throb of that knowing, of the auspicious one, of Shiva, that which is all that is, that which is that pristine, pure sense of being, that also encompasses the illusions and everything that it has created within its own being. But we know that part of the spectrum. We're done with that part. We're tired of that. We've suffered long enough, countless lifetimes. We want to know the infinitude of being and the eternal rapturous state of awareness that is that consciousness. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So when we're repeating that and chanting that, we're repeating it with the awareness. I am that. I am the auspicious one. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. I am consciousness and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. I am the auspicious one. I am infinite. I am beyond name and form. All of that is wrapped up in mantra. So we set aside all the scramblings of the mind and the thoughts and images, memories, feelings, and say, all that stuff. And we just keep going, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So we'll chant it now slowly, and then we'll sit in the stillness. And if the mind's moving, just let it move with Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. You say it fast, say it slow, say it with the breath, say it however you want, but say it with the awareness of I am that. I am Shiva. I am the auspicious one. I am beyond any images of Shiva, beyond any concepts of Shiva. I am that. That I am. That's where the power of mantra itself arises from and will take us into that. So dissolve the little one in that and know the infinitude of being. Shrimati Kali Mandevi Ki Jai. Om Namah Shivaya. So we end with this prayer, and may all our practices truly benefit everyone, and may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. And namaste. Shivoham, Shivoham. Keep coming back. That's your home. The truth, what your sublime nature is. Shivoham, Shivoham. I am Shiva. I am the auspicious one. I am boundless. I am that. Aham. I am. Aham. I am. Live from that. And your boundless qualities, your boundless compassion, your boundless love, your boundless patience and kindness, your boundless wisdom, your boundless power. You live from them. They flow through you. Can't help it. The only thing that stops them is identification with a limited mind. So, come home to the truth of who you are. Treat yourself as the infinite, the divine. And then you'll be empowered to treat all others as the infinite, the divine. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. So with all my heart, with all my love, thank you for being the self and coming to this evening and sharing your divine presence with all.